everything in policing changed from that point. Obviously, and even from policing to airports to um, cruise lines, just security was, obviously tightened up, and it changed the way we live, the way we travel. I mean,
Religious profiling happened, and I alluded to it a little bit when I was flying. And it's an unfortunate circumstance that happened to the Muslim nation. That as people got, and it wasn't even just a Muslim. It was anybody who had a long beard. It was anybody who, I had a coworker at that time, and he was he wasn't Muslim, but he was, just darker skin from I think he was Greek or whatever it was, and he just looked and he had a long beard. I'm like, how much are you getting profiled? He goes, a lot, a lot. And he understood though. He was okay about it at the time. He was like, I understand why, but I think with anything, there's going to be a tipping point as to. But that's an absolute unfortunate side impact that happened.
yeah, I have four ailments. Um, Basically, like an asthmatic condition, sleep apnea, cyanitis, rhinitis, eyes and nose issues. Uh, but a guy I worked with, actually, you know who he is? It's Jimmy Zadroga, and that's who the bill was named after. I worked with him in street crime for about 4 years before he had transferred over to narcotics, and he's believed to be the first responder to succumb from 9/11 injuries, and the bill is named after him. So I think, I go to Mount Sinai once a year for a yearly checkup. They Any medications I need a couple medications. So any medications, any tests or anything like that, the government pays for it all. So and that's because of Jimmy. It's a droga.
And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
The way of America is going to come back. We weren't going to allow this to happen to us, and it was almost like waking a sleeping dog. I mean, it was wherever we need to go to fix this, and that was the feeling you got, and it was like someone's going to be held accountable for what just happened for these. I think the total number was like 38 or 3,900. Of Americans, and it wasn't just an American loss. There was, I forget how the number of countries that were represented in the death toll at the World Trade. So it was impacted in across the world.
The one really good thing that I wish people would remember about 9/11 is that whole city, community, and the nation really came together. I mean, every time we drove in and out the West Side Highway, there were thousands of people handing out water. There were athletes, there were entertainers, actors, actresses, all there just pitching in. And it really, like, the country was so good back then for such a terrible tragedy. Everybody really came together. And it's so missed right now in what we're living in. So, but that's the really one thing I'll never forget is the camaraderie and the people really of all walks of life. There was no color, there was no religion, no nothing.
It's unbelievable how much it united the country, and the American flags were held very high. They were everywhere. Congress was unified, which we haven't seen since. The president was, however you looked at him, George Bush was definitely not a super popular president, but he was absolutely revered at that time. I mean, Mayor Giuliani was, I mean, you could look at him what he is today, but at the time he was, he was the guy that everybody was behind, and he was bringing everything back from a strength standpoint. And so they may not be the right men or women for every situation, but they sure seem to be the right people for that situation, to kind of get everyone behind them.
Wow. I, you know what? This probably should be an event that's taught in school. I mean, we were taught about, World War One, World War Two, and Vietnam, Pearl Harbor. I mean, our family remembers Pearl Harbor like, um, like we were there. It's something you take to heart. It does seem like it's kind of forgotten, and it is a little disheartening to say that, but people back then really rallied and had a common goal of comforting one another and moving forward together and protecting each other. It doesn't seem like it's that way now, and now you'd be hard pressed to find um, a police officer or a fireman. There's very few now that are still on the job um, that were there around for 9/11. I mean, most of us are retired. So I think it's incumbent on the police departments and the fire departments and EMS to teach their younger new recruits, new members to do it. But as a nation, I think this should be a nationally recognized event.
There were, the people that were that perished. They were not military. They were not soldiers. They were not. Um, they weren't. They didn't have training. They didn't. They were civilians, and that seemed, not that soldiers and should be subject to that, but not even, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that these were civilians who were just trying to go to their job and do their work, and went to work that day and passed, and then got in a horrific death, in a horrific death. And so that's such an unfortunate thing for me to know that. I worked with these people a year before. I got offered to go back to the company in, the months leading up to 9/11. That I could have been easily had taken that job back and gone back into the building. So that, yeah, sticks with you. Definitely sticks with you. It's little life decisions that I decided to get out of the city and work in the suburbs. I was very, very close to, being part of that.
This one really great guy. I was a rookie in the 4-8, and there was a scandal that happened right before I got there, and basically the whole midnight crew got arrested, and it was before I got there. So myself and four other guys who were brand new, we had less than a year and a half on the job, were pretty much forced onto midnights. And this one roll call, they took the supposed bad cops out, and left us to run the whole precinct, five of us. So the 4-6 precinct, I was in the 4-8 precinct at the time. The 4-6 precinct was right next door. And this one guy, Sergio Villanueva, was and his partner Ricky Martin. Not Ricky Martin, but Ricky Martin, a police officer. Those guys had about 3 years more than us, and they took us under their wing. They backed us up on jobs. They helped us in court. It was the guys that were supposed to help us weren't there anymore. So the Sergio Villanueva transferred to the fire department a couple years later, and so he was one of the guys killed that day going up to South Tower also. So yeah, I could hear his name and it hits me. He was a real good guy. He helped me out, and tried to help his family out and move over to the fire department. And he lost his life, but he died. He's a hero. And just Steve Driscoll, the one issue guy that was a street crime cop with me. Another guy, like those are my two closest people. I mean, of others, but those two we pretty hit you in the heart.
I ask the American people to join me in saying a thanks for all the folks who have been fighting hard to rescue our fellow citizens, and to join me in saying a prayer for the victims and their families. The resolve of our great nation is being tested, but make no mistake, we will show the world that we will pass this test. God bless.
My hope is that it is remembered. Further down the line, years and years after we're all gone.